Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So first off, ignore my weird kind of sunburn. I went to the beach this weekend and yeah, ended up with this weird patchy sunburn. So ignore that. So today's video is going to be a revisit to an indie brand that I've covered before. If you remember this Clueless palette from Peachy Queen, which is the original creator, not those other brands. This is the Clueless palette from Peachy Queen. It looked like this. I loved this palette. It had some repetitive colors in it, but overall the quality was really good. And I've kind of kept my eye on Peachy Queen on their Instagram, and I've thought about purchasing some things and I just never got around to it. And then they came out with this. This is their pumpkin spice palette. So they just released this. I literally just got it in the mail tonight and decided to sit down and film with it. You guys know I love pumpkin, I love orange eyeshadow, I love fall, so I had to get this. This is what the palette looks like on the inside. So I personally like that it's a much smaller palette than this one. It's still a pretty big palette, but you can see it's a much smaller palette. The pan sizes are a lot larger. Obviously you're getting less shadows, but I think you're getting plenty. I think the amount you're getting here is fine, especially for the color variation. So the palette retails for $33, $33.95, and it is still in stock. So if you're interested, you can go on their website and purchase it. You also can sign up for their newsletter and get 10% off. So that's also nice. And the shipping was really quick. Like I just ordered this as soon as it hit their website last week, I believe it was, and it's already here. This isn't a pre-order, so if you ordered it now, I assume it would ship pretty immediately, and their shipping is really quick. So you do get 5 matte shades, and then you get 6 kind of shimmery metallic shades, and then this shade right here is kind of like a matte, really deep, rich black, and then it has silver glitter in it, but it's not like a pressed glitter. It's swatched really nicely, so I'm very interested to try that one. I think I might try to use it as a liner, so we'll see. And also the palette is cruelty-free. So I think that covers everything. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the look. I'm starting out with this light taupe shade on a fluffy brush, and I'm just using this all through the crease just to add a nice base. Next up is the red maple shade, and this I'm using again through the crease just with a bit more of a tapered blending brush, and then also adding a bit more to the outer corner area. Then into the magenta shade, I'm going to add this to the crease as well. I'm making sure I pack on a little bit more onto the outer portion of the eye, but then I'm also dragging it through the crease as well. Then back into the taupe color with that same fluffy brush, and I'm just running this all over the top of those shades. This kind of helped just tone down a little bit of that bright pinkness. Next up is the shade Pumpkin Spice Shimmer. I'm using this on a wet brush and just placing this on the inner half of the lid. Then going over the top of that with the shade Shimmering Persimmon. This just has a little bit more of like a sparkle to it. Then for the outer half of the lid, I'm using the shade Shimmering Cinnamon, and I'm also blending them together in the center. Then I mixed Shimmering Cinnamon and Burgundy Shimmer together with a kind of dense blending brush and just packed this onto the outer corner and then blended it out. Next up is the shade Lilac Shimmer. I'm using this on a flat angled brush, which I did spray with setting spray, and I'm just packing this onto the outer half of the lower lash line. And then for the inner half of the lash line, I'm going back into the shade Shimmering Cinnamon. With a pencil brush, I'm using the magenta shade just on the outer half, so underneath that purple lilac color. And then for the inner half, I'm going into the shade Autumn Orange, and that's gonna go underneath that cinnamon shade. Then for the inner corner, I decided to use the Aspen Yellow shade. I thought it would just be kind of a fun addition. So I'm just kind of packing this onto the inner corner. And then I wanted it to still have a little bit of shimmer to it, so I went into my Be Sweet palette from Bombshell Cosmetica, and I'm just mixing together the Honey Bun, Bumblebee, and Honeylicious shades. Next up, I'm just using my Blackheart Cosmetics liquid liner just to kind of add the structure for a wing. We're gonna go over the top of this. And then while that dries, I'm gonna go ahead and do the waterline. I'm using the Maybelline Lasting Drama Pencil in the shade Striking Copper. Next up is the Diamond Coal Black shade on a wet, tiny detailed brush, and I'm just layering this over the top of that black liner, just really layering it up so that black and glitter stands out. Then 2 really good coats of the NARS Climax mascara to make sure the lashes are nice and bold. And then to finish off the look, I'm using the Black Moon Cosmetics liquid lipstick in the shade Willow. Alright guys, so this is the finished look using the Peachy Queen Pumpkin Spice palette. I'm very, very happy with the way this look turned out. I absolutely love everything about it. My favorite colors in the palette are probably this glittery black shade. I think it worked really nicely as a liner, and quite honestly, I probably could have done without using the liquid liner first because, you know, I just did a thin line of that and then kind of brought the eyeshadow, the black eyeshadow, up a little bit higher, and I feel like it looks very opaque. So if you're gonna do a look like this, you may only need the liquid liner just to kind of give you a nice point for your wing. So I thought that the mattes blended really nicely. I'm really happy that this one was super pigmented, but I kind of had the same issue I had with the Clueless palette where like this shade, this shade, and this shade all kind of turn a little pinkish when you start using a blending brush with them. So I would say maybe if you want the colors to be a bit more true, use a very dense brush, or maybe don't set your primer. I did set my primer this time and I kind of regret doing that. I think if I had not set the primer and left it tacky, it would have gripped the color a bit more true to what you're seeing here. So that's something to keep in mind. I do think the shimmers were all really nice. I think they probably would have performed a little bit better just using your finger because they're very, very soft, especially like this one right here. You could almost like push into it and probably see your fingerprint like indentation. And I chose to use a wet brush, which did work, but I don't know if you can tell, it kind of, you know, messed with the shadows a little bit. Obviously they are still usable. It's just, you know, it's a visual thing. But I mean, just like 3 little circles and you can see how gorgeous that is. I mean, it's a very pretty color, and I feel like the color looks better on my hand than it does on my lids. So that might just be my fault for using a wet brush. I probably should have just stuck to using my finger, especially since I didn't do a cut crease, so I didn't have to be quite as precise. I do feel like these 3 kind of run into that same issue of being a little too similar. This one had a little bit more glitter to it, which I really, really liked. I also like the fact that this taupey brown color was really pigmented because it made it easy to blend with either of these 3 shades up here when they started getting a little too much on the pink side and I needed to kind of bring it back to the rusty brown tones as much as possible. So my biggest complaint is probably that I wish that the color differences would have been a bit more drastic. I mean, if you're doing pumpkin spice, you can add in a bit more browns or some lighter oranges. I think this one could have been a bit lighter. I could think maybe one of these could have been like a brown instead, so that you have a bit more depth options, but overall the palette is still pretty and you can mix them together very easily on your eye. They blend together very nicely, so you could always kind of customize the shades. So just keep that in mind if you're interested in this palette. You may end up wanting to bring in a shadow from another palette or just a single shadow you have, like a brown or something, to deepen something up if you don't want to do the shimmer like I did, like a brown matte or something like that. But it is a really pretty palette overall. And like I said, the shadow quality is excellent, so I can definitely recommend that. So it's just up to you if you like the colors. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this review and tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go, and thank you for watching. Bye guys.